On a Sunday,
So
I
call-
did.
I'd like to
What's bad deal?
call the meeting to order. The Jersey County Service and Public Safety Committee. It's 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. on November the 27th. And present we have Brian Knellican, Ben Heinsick, Gary Kruger, Mary Kerback, myself, Ron Hennerfouth, Rob Hedger, and two people from the public, Mike Weaver,
Jared Hayes.
and Jared Hayes. Is there any public comment at all?
Chairman Little.
Oh, that's right, and Chairman Don Little. Forgot about him. Any-
I was just gonna ask the question, has anybody actually spec'd anything, or is there anybody that could come in as a radio engineer to evaluate everything? I mean, obviously, Mr. Hedger's done a lot of homework. I didn't know if the county has ever done anything like that in the past, or whatever. I mean, I'm sure all it costs is money, but, you know, to have radio equipment disappear, that's obviously a problem, but how do you know? You're at the mercy of everybody. So that's basically it.
All right, the meeting has been called in response to a 911 system critical radio failure at the tower site in Pierre Marquette. And I think at this point, I'll ask Rob Hedger to explain the situation to us.
Yeah. So bear with me, and I'm gonna talk as layman as I possibly can, because I'm not a radio tech guy, and this thing has evolved even since we've spoken and talked last week. So, to try to make you understand of how the radio systems work in Jersey County, if we had to say that we got a tower site in Jerseyville, we also had a tower site at Pierre Marquette. So I've been contacted more by Medora that they weren't getting their pages. They couldn't, there wasn't, when we would set tones off, their pagers weren't being tripped. Not so much out of Fielden and Rosedale, but I have verified that they had the same issue down in the Fielden and Rosedale area. When we first had the issue, the techs went down to the Watercom tower, so that's the Pierre Marquette side. So if you hear me say Watercom, Pierre Marquette, it's synonymous. They go down there and they looked and they said there's a 50-watt repeater that's supposed to be in the system with a 100-watt amplifier. The amplifier's gone. I don't know what happened to it. And the 50-watt repeater was not pushing 50 watts. It was under 30, but they did some modifications, had it back up to 30 watts. Obviously, it didn't solve the problem. We knew that we were going to have to get a fix in place, so that's where I reached out to them to tell me what it would cost to fix the components down here at the Watercom tower, and that's where you saw the $50,000 bid for the simulcast system.
I'm sorry, who diagnosed the problem initially, Rob?
GTSI.
Oh, okay.
So GTSI diagnosed the problem, and I asked for the cost to fix it, and that's where you get the $50,000 bid. Well, initially we thought that the $50,000 bid was the best option because that would have moved us to a simulcast system. So that means we're broadcasting both here and here at the same time, simulcast at the same time, which would have then fixed our coverage issue up here in Medora. Sound like a great plan, great idea. So sitting at my house Saturday night, it was around 10:30 at night, and it struck me that we just invested in $5,000 fix to fix this Medora issue about 18 months ago. I couldn't remember exactly what we did to it, and so I had to reach out back to GTSI and say, refresh my memory, because if my memory serves me correctly, this tower no longer serves this location. Two different frequencies at play. And I talked to him yesterday, and he said, you're absolutely correct. He said, when we put the fix in up here for Medora to fix their paging issue, you now use the Jerseyville tower to communicate with Medora, to page Medora on Macoupin County's frequency. Macoupin allowed us to use their frequency. When that fix went in, it worked great. So my problem is now, we still have a problem here because we know those components are bad. It just didn't fix my problem here. So Thursday they're going to go out now. They have to try to diagnose why this site stopped working. So we kind of got two issues now. This side they're going to work on Thursday to figure out. So with that $50,000 bid, I don't think that a simulcast system is necessarily needed, because we've already put a fix in here.
Cause they're not compatible with.
It's compatible and it would work, but we've already put my whole idea and thinking behind the simulcast system was to get back on this Jerseyville tower to communicate and send those pages to Medora. I completely forgot about that fix that we put in there. Macocum County was generous enough to let us jump on their repeater that sits in the center of Medora and utilize their frequency to page them. When that fix went in, everything was fine. So the question now has come back to, is it in the console, sitting in dispatch, is there an issue there, or is there something down at the site? So they're gonna go out there and try to fix that. Now, we still have an issue down here. So we've got broken and missing components. So we'll go through all of the options that GTSI sent to me up to the simulcast system. We can go back with same components, everything that's there, same components for $7,000. So that'll put us back in the business of being able to page off that tower again. Everything from there goes up incrementally. $7,000 will put light components back in. $13,000 will put a box down there that's ready to be migrated to a simulcast system should we ever choose to do that down the road. $20,000 gets us a little bit more towards the simulcast, and $50,000 is the whole kit and caboodle. That's kind of where we're at.
So 7,000 gets us up and running on that,
Yep,
right?
yep. So this is what I had him go through and explain to me again, all of the options, just so I was sure. He says the $7,000 option would be the most limiting option and might be considered as disposable when compared to future options because it's not upgradable. It's going back in with the same components that are there now.
That's the thing, we gotta look to the future, are you
Yeah.
gonna,
The $13,000 option replaces what is there with a station that immediately will fix the problem and allows upgrade in the future. And then 20 is that even more. In his opinion, he said our best position to be in is probably the $13,000 option, which allows the upgrade in the future.
I
So it
mean,
not only fixes the problem,
It
Give-
allows for
but
upgrade.
gives us flexibility in the future.
Now, did it look like there'd been a break-in down there at one time?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know where this stuff goes, but this is the problem when you have multiple vendors that come in with multiple ideas, and before you know it, what we are lacking and what we need is files for how all of these towers are touched, when they're touched, what goes on, schematics, drawings. To sit down and actually comprehend this and to think about it, I have to sit down and, I almost need a picture. And it's not because obviously, I just would feel a lot better looking at a picture, knowing what's being broadcast where, and the coverage areas as opposed to reading about it. But we need a schematic on what's supposed to be in the system. We had the same problem over in the basement of the sheriff's office. We had multiple missing components out of the system there, including a microwave. They said, we're talking to the tune of a new car that was missing. And where'd they go?
Because you suspect it could have been a contractor that came in and made a renovation and took components because he thought it was not necessary?
It could be. I mean, it's all speculation, and I'm not, I would all be speculation to say, but,
So,
so that's what we ended up having to recently do when the sheriff's office did the sheriff's office frequency upgrade. We had to put a microwave back in to communicate from the Jerseyville tower back down to the Pierre Marquette tower, because that microwave was completely taken out of the
these
system.
are the same towers that the sheriff's office uses?
Yeah, so the sheriff's office is on simulcast, so they're broadcasting both towers.
Through some of the same equipment?
Yeah, well, they have their own repeaters and own equipment specifically for their frequency.
would that fix, if you did the upgrade to the 13,000, would that fix like Rosedale and,
That'll cover,
Well-
yeah, that'll put us right back to where we were, with giving us what we would hope would be that adequate coverage again, right back to where we were prior to the problem, which I mean, this has been, UTSB did this, I think, within the last year, 18 months. We went ahead and put that in out there, and I would think that GTSI would cover that we shouldn't lose components that quick, but it could be in the radio itself, so, or the console, the dispatch console.
911's got two radios? one base, or you got a backup base unit? What?
Well, the system has, the system itself has multiple radios built into it.
Okay, but
So there's multiple radios to communicate with all the different
the
agencies.
one system's like 3 years old or 4 years old,
That's the console,
the console.
the console. So the console is what controls the radios that are in the basement of the courthouse. So if you ever go in the basement of the courthouse into Brian Funk's room, that cabinet of equipment there is all radio equipment. So within all of those doors are where the radios reside to transmit.
Well, I'm trying to get my head around, is the police system and the 911, are they meshable, are they completely separate, are they intertwined? You know, if we go digital and
No,
upgrade,
Yeah, so should the sheriff's office go to a digital upgrade,
Yes.
the components that are sitting in the sheriff's office now, it's a digital radio system. It's running analog, so it runs through a gateway. So it comes in analog and transitions over to digital, come back out at the console side. So that's all sitting there ready to
so
go.
that would all be ready to go.
And we don't know if there's gonna be any additional expense for the other little problem we've got up.
I can tell you historically, if it's something that resides on the console or within the building itself, we cover that.
Okay.
We do everything basically out to the, I guess you wanna call it the D-mark line. So
Mhm.
everything inside the building, and even that site out there, I mean, it was something that had to be done. And so we just went ahead, I think, like you said, about 18 months, a year ago, and went ahead and put that in to get the paging capabilities. But
Have we got a firm bid on the 13,000?
13 is what he told me. The only one I got back on firm proposal was that one.
Okay. You know, it seems to me too that maybe as part of the scope of work, a requirement that they provide a detailed listing of any equipment that's removed or replaced.
Yeah, like I said, it'd be nice to have a schematic drawn out so we
Yeah.
can know what exists in the locations. I mean, I don't even have a key to the tower site down south. I can't even get in there to go in and do any kind of inventory, or where they could take me in there and let me know what each component does. I'd like
Yeah.
to go in there and see, but the same thing over here, and that's something that we desperately need, is we need to start developing, and they may have them, I shouldn't say, I don't have them. The companies that initially did the installs, GTSI, who put the system in eons ago, may have a schematic drawn out. I think they do, and I think that's how they knew the components were missing. You know, when they can go back and look and say, well, we were supposed to have a microwave here, and it's not around.
Those things don't just get up and walk away. Is there any value in terms of copper or anything like that to it?
I don't know.
Or some thief would come in and,
Really need some kind of accessible computer file on almost every major piece of equipment.
Well, and you wanna keep track of
And,
everything.
Yeah, right.
you know, where you can note that, it was worked on, what was done, and the cost, and
Yeah,
if something was changed
and then
out.
what you see happen all the time is you've got, just as county board members are here, and you know about it, and you cycle off, and new sheriffs come on. All of these conversations have to be had again, so in order to bring people up to speed with everything that's been done over the last umpteen years, it's good to have that file to go back in case they ever wanna see it and see what was spent where and how we invested.
I mean, is
the
there any
money.
way you could request that from them, see if they do have that?
What's that?
The schematics and stuff
Yeah,
like that?
yeah, I can ask them, cause I think we need that, and,
yeah.
you know, one thing I'd recommend, to Don or to the board, I think it would be very beneficial to have a emergency radio network committee or Jersey County Radio Network Committee that is the sheriff, myself, emergency management, and other users of these frequencies. That way, all of the heads can get together at the table and start determining how we may wanna migrate forward with this system. There's not just, there's so many people that have hands involved in this, from the fire departments to the police departments, the sheriff's office, to us, to, you know, emergency management, coroner's office. There's a lot of people at play here, and it would just be beneficial to have everybody at some point sit down at the table. That way we can filter recommendations back, whether it be to the Public Safety Committee directly or back to the county board. That way it's not just coming from Rob or from the sheriff or from somebody else. We can all sit down and talk to these vendors and figure out the best course of action. Just a recommendation.
Two things, Rob. Who has the key?
It's the sheriff's office.
Okay.
Kevin's got one. Yeah, they maintain that site, and Kevin goes down and mows, so I think he's got the key to the shack and to the gate.
The second thing on this hybrid committee, you put together a list of through every conceivable emergency.
Yeah.
Person, and we'll put something together, delegate someone to do it, probably the chair of this committee.
Probably, would get with the sheriff, next week or so, sit down and talk to him, and then maybe Larry Mead also, maybe the three of us can come up with a list of names and, that would be beneficial to be on there. That way, that way these things don't come up. If there's
Right.
planning that we can do throughout the year as we get towards budget time and we say, hey, listen, let's look at migrating or doing something like this, then we can get it filtered in and, get it budgeted for appropriately.
There should be sufficient funds in the public safety account, don't you think, Don?
Already checked with Gibb, and we can find some of the money that was left over from the jail renovation.
Oh, okay,
Would be the most likely suspect to draw from.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I was
And I-
gonna
and I
call him
wanna
today, and I
say-
forgot.
I always budget $5,000 for radios in the county's portion of your budget also, on what I submit back to the county portion, so there's dispatcher salaries and radios. And I don't know if anything ever comes out of that.
Well, it goes back in,
I don't know if there's, but do they make payments out of it? That's just another option. I don't know if they make payments out of that.
I can check with Gibb to see what activity has been from that particular line item.
I didn't know if they paid rent payments or, lease fees or electric out of that, or if it came from another account.
well, due to the fact that it's not completely wasted, I would make a motion that we spend the 13,000 and get it running, because we've gotta have it for emergency and for communications, and it shouldn't take
Thank you.
And I'm gonna be brief on this. I know that there's been just discussion back and forth. This isn't on the agenda, but just for your information, when I initially brought this up, I said that we had been talking about a more comprehensive fix for the sheriff's office frequency. John and I had been kind of talking about what we could do to fix that dead area that exists between, basically Elsa area down to Lock Haven. And, so we talked to GTSI about migrating to a site that would provide coverage over there, and we did find out that Calhoun County put a new tower site in on the south end of Calhoun County. And we went down there with a digital radio, which is, similar to the system that Greene County just put in. We went down to the entrance to Elsa, and we were able to talk clearly to Calhoun County and beyond. We did lose some signal as we went down towards Lock Haven. The other option here, we would I'd certainly have to see where, the new sheriff sits with this, is to put to see if Ameren would allow us to put a repeater on the tower site across by the Portage de Sioux power plant, which would give wonderful coverage along that entire stretch of River Road, probably better than what the tower site in Calhoun County provides. The Calhoun County option, we would probably also have to put something in on the Principia Tower where QEM has their equipment, like a receive site up there, in order to cover that area down at Lock Haven. We did get pricing on it that would upgrade all of their radios, mobiles, and portable radios, and move them over to a digital system. But that's just something that's on the radio when we talked about doing a comprehensive fix for them. That dead area is an officer safety issue. That area between Elsa down to Lock Haven is a significant officer safety issue, and I know that that's been their priority to get that fixed.
Can't even get cell phone reception down there.
No. And, of course, digital is much better quality than what we're running on the analog. So that's just something to keep on the radar, that this would be beneficial for that committee to sit down. We do have numbers on it, but of course I would want to cycle all this through and make sure that it's something that this is just discussions that happen with one sheriff. Now we'll have these discussions with the new incoming sheriff and see how they want to proceed.
And with digital in 6 months, it might be altogether different with the pricing and the equipment, that changes so fast, some of that stuff.
It could be. This was a digital, so again, Greene County just put the same system in up there. From what I understand, the sheriff loves it. He thinks it's phenomenal. Digital also offers encryption, so you don't have to, if you have anything that's going on, it can't be picked up by scanners, so there's definitely tremendous benefits. One of the questions that Sheriff Ringhausen had was the ability to transmit data. Is there an ability to transmit location information from handhelds and portables back, you know, for vehicle location and personnel location purposes, those are the things that we'd have to investigate. But I was initially thinking that this would be close to $200,000, and I think that we're just over $100,000 to put the upgrades in, which really for a digital system isn't horrible. There may be some things that we can even do. If we didn't go digital, we might be able to use those same sites to put, you know, to upgrade the analog system. We might be able to go to that Calhoun Tower and put an additional repeater in over there on the simulcast system. But there's options. But that, to me, that's the idea of this committee, is for people to sit down and start investigating kind of the direction we want to go.
And that would include somebody talking to Ameren, I guess, about using their tower.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Do they ever allow that kind of thing, do you know?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, the folks at GTSI are the ones who deal with that, they negotiate that, they have attorneys that are able to, we had, initially when we talked about going to Portage to sue, there was some frequency issues. I believe there was gonna be some bleed from our frequency on theirs over there, so they wouldn't give us the authority to move over some, I don't remember exactly how that worked out. But they were confident that they'd be able to, if we wanted to use that, it would certainly be an option. I don't know whether they'd say yes, but it would be something that we could certainly look at. John's concern was just having the equipment located in Missouri, and Sheriff Ringhausen may have those same concerns, but those are things that would
We
certainly.
might have to pay a little rent or something like that, you know, stipend,
Could,
you know.
I'm sure at the Calhoun County side, I don't think that they would,
No, probably not.
probably not bill us anything, I think it's owned by the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
And again, that gave us good coverage. We were trying to talk off of a handheld in a car though, moving, and he thinks probably had we been on a mobile, we probably would have been able to get out a little bit better and talk, but of course that doesn't do good for the guy who's out on his mobile on a traffic stop.
Yeah, right. Okay, is there any other discussions, any other issues that we need to bring up? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Motion and a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor, signify aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned at 7:25.